Fix this and I'll give you 100 millimeters, the billionaire mocked. But the waitress's daughter solved it instantly. But the truth she revealed would collapse his empire and send someone to prison unless... Subscribe now or this might be our last meeting. Follow, comment, and share to stay connected. Don't miss out. Let's dive in. The neon sign above the Redwood Diner flickered twice before dying completely. Luna Villalba barely noticed anymore after 6 years. The broken lights had become part of the landscape, just like the cracked vinyl booths and the coffee stains that wouldn't come out no matter how hard she scrubbed. She wiped down table 7 for the 3rd time that shift, her movements automatic. 27 years old, double shifts 6 days a week, and still barely making rent. Her feet ached in the cheap sneakers she'd bought at the discount store, and her lower back sent sharp protests with every bend. Through the frost-covered windows, the California rain hammered the empty parking lot. It was nearly midnight, the kind of dead hour where only insomniacs and people running from something showed up. The door slammed open. Luna looked up. The man who stormed in was tall, dark-haired, and furious. His $3,000 suit was soaked through, his jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. He carried a laptop like it was a weapon. Wi-Fi password. Now. He didn't look at her, just dropped the laptop onto the counter with enough force to make the sugar dispensers rattle. Strong coffee, black, and I need absolute silence. Luna's practiced customer service smile faltered. Good evening to you too, sir. The password is on the... I don't care where it is. Just give it to me. His steel-gray eyes finally met hers, and there was something desperate beneath the arrogance. I have exactly 3 hours to save my company, and I can't do it if I have to deal with small talk. She should have been offended, should have reminded him that courtesy cost nothing. Instead, she found herself writing down the password and pouring his coffee in silence. Adrian Hawthorne. She'd seen his face in magazines, heard his name whispered by Tommy's teachers when they talked about people who made it. CEO of Hawthorne Quantum Systems. 35 years old and worth more than her entire neighborhood combined. He didn't say, thank you. Just grabbed the coffee and hunched over his laptop, typing with the kind of violent intensity that suggested he was trying to strangle the keyboard. Luna returned to her tables, clearing dishes, refilling waters, but her eyes kept drifting to his screen. Even from 6 feet away, she could see the cascading error messages, the lines of code that kept failing, the quantum probability model that was structured all wrong. Her hands trembled. Don't look. Don't think about it. But her mind was already tracing the problem, identifying the flaw, reconstructing the solution she would have implemented if this were 5 years ago, before everything collapsed. God damn it! Adrian's fist slammed against the counter. 3 months of MIT's best engineers, and we're still stuck on the same fucking problem. Luna set down the coffee pot. The words came out before she could stop them. The error isn't on line 42. He froze. What did you say? Her heart hammered against her ribs. Stupid. So stupid. Nothing. I'm sorry. You saw my screen. His voice was sharp, dangerous. From over there. In the dark. And you knew what you were looking at. She tried to back away, but he was already standing, laptop in hand, crossing the distance between them in 3 strides. Explain. It wasn't a request. I have good memory for numbers. I noticed the pattern, that's all. Bullshit. He spun the laptop toward her. The code filled the screen, complex, layered, the kind of work that took years of specialized training to even comprehend. If you can see the problem, explain it. Sir, I really should. Fix this and I'll give you $100 million. He laughed, a bitter, incredulous sound. Go ahead. Prove me wrong. Show me that a waitress in a dead-end diner can solve what the smartest engineers in Silicon Valley couldn't. The mockery in his voice should have made her walk away, should have reminded her why she'd spent 5 years hiding. Instead, Luna pulled the laptop closer. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with muscle memory she'd tried to forget. She didn't think, just let her mind do what it had always done best. The probability model was inverted. The quantum state calculations were treating superposition as binary, when they should have been treating it as continuous. The solution wasn't in the code itself, it was in the fundamental mathematical framework. She restructured the algorithm, ran the execution. The screen filled with green check marks, prototype functional, all systems operational. The silence in the diner was absolute. Luna stepped back, her hands shaking. What had she done? What had she just exposed? Adrian stared at the screen. then at her. His expression had transformed from arrogance to something she couldn't quite read. Shock, maybe. Or fear. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm just a waitress." Luna's voice came out steadier than she felt. "I should get back to work." She reached for the coffee pot, but Adrian's hand shot out, not quite touching her but blocking her path. "Don't." His tone had shifted, less angry, more intense. "Don't insult my intelligence. That wasn't luck. That wasn't good memory for numbers. You just solved a quantum computing problem that's been hemorrhaging my company's resources for 3 months. Sometimes patterns are obvious if you look at them the right way. Where did you study?" Her throat tightened. "I didn't." Another lie. He leaned against the counter, studying her with the kind of scrutiny she'd spent 5 years avoiding. "What university?" The door chimed. Luna had never been so grateful for an interruption. The woman who entered moved with the careful grace of someone who'd learned elegance through decades of practice. Silver hair pulled back in a French twist, designer coat perfectly tailored despite the rain. She took one look at the tense tableau at the counter and smiled. "Adrian, darling, are you terrorizing the staff?" "Mother." His jaw tightened. "This isn't Margaret Hawthorne." The older woman extended her hand directly to Luna, bypassing her son entirely. "And you've clearly done something remarkable to put that expression on my son's face. He only looks that unsettled when someone proves him wrong." Luna shook her hand reflexively. "Luna Villalba, I just brought him coffee. And solved his company's crisis, from what I'm overhearing." Margaret's eyes, the same steel gray as her son's but warmer, assessed Luna with unsettling accuracy. How refreshing. Adrian shot his mother a look. "I was just asking Luna to come to the office tomorrow," he said abruptly, "for a technical consultation. I'll pay you $5,000 for 2 hours of your time." "No." The word came out too fast, too sharp. 10,000. "I have shifts, I can't just." 20,000. His voice dropped. "For one conversation. That's more than you make here in 6 months. Margaret touched her son's arm gently. "Adrian, you're doing it again." Something in his posture softened fractionally. When he spoke again, the arrogance had been replaced by something that might have been desperation. "Please, I need to understand what you did. How you saw what no one else could." Luna's hands twisted in her apron. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to run, to disappear back into the safety of invisibility. "Just a conversation," Margaret added softly. "My son can be intense, but he's not cruel. And clearly you have a gift that deserves recognition." The kindness in the older woman's voice almost broke her. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Luna heard herself say. 2 hours, that's all." Adrian's shoulders released tension she hadn't realized he was carrying. "Thank you." After they left, Margaret gently steering her still stunned son toward the door, Luna stood in the empty diner, her reflection ghostly in the rain-streaked windows. What had she just agreed to? The bus ride home took 40 minutes through streets slick with rain. Luna pressed her forehead against the cold window, watching the city blur past. She unlocked the apartment door as quietly as possible. Tommy was asleep on the pull-out couch, his skinny 10-year-old frame curled under the blanket she'd bought at Goodwill. Textbooks surrounded him like a fortress. Luna moved through the tiny space, checking locks, turning off lights. In the bedroom that was barely larger than a closet, she knelt beside the mattress and slid her hand beneath it until her fingers found the USB drive. Still there, still safe. The drive contained everything Dante Rosen had tried to destroy: original research notes, time-stamped files, voice recordings. 5 years of evidence that her work had been stolen, her reputation shattered, her future erased by a man who'd seen her brilliance and decided to claim it as his own. She hadn't looked at these files in months, hadn't dared to hope they'd ever matter again, but tomorrow she was walking into Hawthorne Quantum Systems, into a world she'd been exiled from, and if Dante was still connected to that world, if he found out she was alive, lucid, and dangerously close to someone with power. Luna closed her hand around the drive. The war she'd tried to escape might be coming back whether she was ready or not. Luna stood in front of the glass tower, her reflection distorted in the gleaming surface. Hawthorne Quantum Systems occupied floors 30 through 42 of the building, a monument to the kind of success she'd once dreamed of earning. She'd dressed carefully that morning. A simple black blouse from Target, gray slacks she'd owned for 3 years, hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Nothing that screamed, "Look at me." Everything that whispered, "Temporary employee, forgettable, safe, The security guard checked her name against the visitor list and handed her a badge. 38th floor. Mr. Hawthorne is expecting you. The elevator ride felt endless. Her palms were sweating. This was a mistake. She should leave now, text some excuse, disappear back into. The doors opened, and Dante Rosen was standing 10 feet away, coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips. Time fractured. She watched his face cycle through shock, disbelief, and then, unmistakably, terror. The coffee cup slipped from his fingers, exploding against the marble floor in a spray of liquid and ceramic shards. Luna. Her name came out strangled. You're here. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. 5 years of nightmares crystallized into the man standing before her. Older now, more polished, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. Executive director, according to the nameplate on the nearby office. He'd built his empire on her stolen work. And now, she was standing in the middle of it. Luna? Adrian's voice cut through her paralysis. He was walking toward them, hand extended toward her shoulder, but not quite touching. Are you all right? Fine. Her voice sounded mechanical. Just surprised by the coffee. Dante's expression smoothed into something approaching professionalism, but she could see the calculation in his eyes. I apologize for the mess. I didn't realize we were expecting visitors today. This is Luna Villalba. Adrian's tone carried unmistakable pride. External consultant. She's the one who identified the probability model flaw last night. The color drained from Dante's face. External consultant. He repeated the words like they were a death sentence. Adrian, could I speak with you privately for a moment? There are some security protocols we should discuss before. Later. Adrian was already guiding Luna toward his office. We have work to do. Luna glanced back. Dante was pulling out his phone, his fingers moving with frantic urgency. The CEO's office was all glass and steel, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Adrian gestured to the workstation already set up with multiple monitors. I had the team pull everything related to the quantum encryption project. If you can optimize the model the way you restructured the algorithm last night, we could accelerate the timeline by 6 months. Luna sat down, her mind racing. Every instinct screamed to run, but her fingers were already moving across the keyboard, muscle memory taking over. The code was elegant but inefficient. She could see 3 ways to streamline it immediately. The recursive function here, she pulled up the nested loops. If you restructure the iteration pattern and implement parallel processing for the quantum state calculations, that's brilliant. Adrian leaned over her shoulder, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. Why didn't my engineers see that? Because they were taught to follow formulas, not reimagine them. Because they were trained to think inside existing frameworks, not burn them down and rebuild from first principles. She didn't say any of that. The door opened. Margaret Hawthorne entered carrying 2 cups of tea, Dante trailing behind her like a shadow. I thought you might need refreshment. The older woman's smile was warm, genuine. That kind of mental work is exhausting. Mother, we're in the middle of... And Dante insisted on joining us. Margaret's tone suggested she found this amusing. Apparently he's concerned about security protocols. Dante's smile was poison-wrapped in politeness. Adrian, I've been reviewing our confidentiality agreements. Given the sensitive nature of this work, perhaps we should conduct a standard background check before Ms. Villalba has access to. She already solved a problem that's cost us $3 million. Adrian's voice was sharp. I think we can expedite the paperwork. Of course. Dante's eyes locked onto Luna. I just want to ensure the company's interests are protected. Sometimes people with complicated histories can present unexpected risks. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Margaret set down her teacup with precise force. That's quite an accusation to make about someone you've just met, Dante. Not an accusation, just prudent caution. But his smile didn't reach his eyes. In my experience, when someone appears too good to be true, there's usually a reason. Luna felt the walls closing in. He was already planting seeds, already building the narrative that would destroy her. Again, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it, finished the optimization, saved the file, and stood. I've made the adjustments you requested. The documentation is clear enough that your team can implement it. Wait, Adrian frowned. We still have 90 minutes. There's more we could. I need to go. Her voice was too tight, too controlled. Family emergency. She was out of the office before he could protest, her heels clicking against the marble floor in a rhythm that sounded like run, run, run. In the elevator, she finally checked her phone. Unknown number. Voice message. Luna Villalba. The electronically distorted voice sent ice through her veins. Tell your little brother Tommy that accidents happen to curious children. Stay away from Hawthorne. This is your only warning. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. Dante had found her, and now he'd found Tommy. The predator was back, and this time he wasn't just destroying her career. He was threatening her family. Dante rose and sat in his corner office, the city lights glittering 40 floors below like distant stars. His hands moved across the keyboard with surgical precision. Creating the first email was almost too easy. From email protected to email protected. Subject: confidential algorithm transfer. Date: modified to 3 months prior. Thanks for the proprietary code samples. I've integrated them into my personal project as discussed. The quantum encryption files you sent will be particularly useful. Let me know if you need anything else from the HQS servers. He attached fragments of actual company code, nothing critical but enough to look damning. Added Luna's name to the metadata. Backdated everything. Beautiful. The second document took more effort. He pulled archived research papers from her university days, carefully altered dates and signatures, inserted fabricated investigation findings about academic misconduct and attempted sabotage. Ms. Villalba was expelled following a comprehensive ethics investigation. Evidence suggested intentional contamination of research data and theft of intellectual property from her supervising professor. His own name, of course, was listed as the supervising professor. The irony made him smile. By 2 a.m. he had a complete dossier, 17 pages of manufactured evidence, professionally formatted, with just enough real information mixed in to seem credible. He sent it anonymously to HQS's legal department with a simple note. Thought you should know who has access to your systems. Then he waited. Adrian found the dossier on his desk at 7 a.m., flagged as urgent by the legal team. He read it twice, then a third time, his coffee growing cold. The woman who'd solved his quantum computing crisis was supposedly a fraud, a thief, someone who'd been expelled from university for academic sabotage and intellectual property theft. His father's voice echoed in his memory. Trust no one, Adrian. Everyone wants something. He called Luna at 9 a.m. We need to talk. Come to the office immediately. I can't. My brother. Now, Luna. His voice was ice. Unless you want me to send this to the authorities. She arrived 30 minutes later, still wearing her diner uniform. Her eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted. Adrian slid the dossier across the conference table. Care to explain this? Luna's face went white as she scanned the pages. He watched her hands tremble, watched her mouth open and close without sound. This is fake. Her voice was barely a whisper. These documents, they've been altered. I never. The metadata says otherwise. He tapped the dates. These emails came from your account. I don't have that account anymore. I haven't used university email in 5 years. Convenient. Dante entered the conference room, his expression perfectly crafted concern. Adrian, I've reviewed the files as you requested. I'm afraid the evidence is quite conclusive. Luna's head snapped toward him. You did this. I understand you're upset. Dante's voice was gentle, sympathetic. Academic failure is difficult to accept, but making accusations won't. You stole my research. Luna's voice was rising, control fracturing. You destroyed my career. You forged evidence against me, and now you're doing it again. This is exactly the kind of instability I was concerned about. Dante turned to Adrian. Paranoid accusations, refusal to accept responsibility, classic patterns of, get out. Adrian's voice cut through the room like a blade. Luna stared at him. What? Both of you. I need to think. Margaret appeared in the doorway. Adrian, perhaps we should. Not now, Mother. Luna gathered the dossier with shaking hands. Adrian watched her walk toward the elevator, shoulders hunched, trying to hold herself together. He almost called her back. Almost. But his father's warning echoed louder. Trust no one. The rain started as Luna pushed through the building's revolving doors. Cold, punishing, soaking through her thin uniform in seconds. She didn't cry. Couldn't. The tears had frozen somewhere between the conference room and the street. Behind her, through the glass walls, she could see Dante watching from the 38th floor. His expression was triumphant. First victory. Achieved. She walked 6 blocks before her legs gave out, collapsed onto a bus stop bench, rain pouring down her face, washing away any remaining pretense of dignity. Her phone buzzed. Tommy, why did you leave so early? Are you okay? Luna stared at the message. Then she stood, forced her legs to move, and started the long journey home. She found Tommy sitting at their tiny kitchen table, homework spread around him like a fortress. When he saw her face, his smile vanished. Luna, what happened? She couldn't speak, just pulled him into her arms and held on. He was small for 10, all sharp angles and 2 big eyes. Her responsibility, her family, the reason she'd survived 5 years of exile. Nothing, baby. Her voice cracked. Nothing happened. But they both knew she was lying. And somewhere in a glass tower overlooking the city, Dante Rosen poured himself a drink and toasted his reflection. Round 1. Complete. Adrian stared at his computer screen at 3 a.m., the office silent except for the hum of ventilation. He'd been reviewing the dossier for the 4th time, and something was wrong. The metadata timestamps didn't align. He pulled up the properties panel. The creation date showed 3 months ago, but the file modification history revealed edits made yesterday, hours before the documents appeared on his desk. Someone had backdated these files. He cross-referenced the email headers. The messages, supposedly sent from Luna's university account, showed IP addresses that traced back to HQS's own network, specifically to executive terminals on the 38th floor, Dante's floor. His phone buzzed. His mother's name flashed on the screen. "It's 3 in the morning, Mother." "I know what time it is." Margaret's voice was sharp. "That girl didn't forge anything, Adrian. I've been watching people lie for 62 years, and whatever Luna Villalba is hiding, it's not fraud. The evidence can be manufactured. You hurt her today, badly. I hope you're prepared to make it right." The call ended. Adrian pulled up the security logs, using administrator access he rarely employed. He tracked document access, email routes, timestamp modifications. Every trail led back to the same terminal ID, Dante Rosen's. At 4 a.m., he grabbed his coat and headed for the door. The Redwood Diner's neon sign was still broken. Through the window, Adrian could see Luna wiping down tables with mechanical precision, the motions of someone who'd stopped feeling anything at all. He pushed through the door. The bell chimed. She looked up, saw him. Her expression closed like a door slamming shut. "We're about to close. Luna, I need to talk to you. You said everything this morning." She turned back to the table, scrubbing harder. "I'm just the unstable fraud, remember? I was wrong." The words came out rougher than he intended. The metadata was altered. Someone created those documents yesterday and backdated them. Her hands stilled. "And you're telling me this why?" "Because I think Dante set you up. Because I've been manipulated into destroying someone innocent." Luna laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "The truth? You want it now? After you humiliated me in front of everyone?" She threw the cloth down. "Do you know what it took to walk into your building? 5 years of hiding. And in one day, you destroyed it all again. Let me help you. I don't need your help. I need you to leave me alone. Luna, get out." Her voice cracked. "Just get out." He left his business card on the counter. "If you change your mind. Please." She didn't look at it. Luna waited until his car disappeared before collapsing into the nearest booth. At home, Tommy was already asleep. She pulled the USB drive from its hiding place. Research notes, original code, time-stamped documents showing her work, all dated years before Dante published his groundbreaking papers, voice recordings where he praised her brilliance, promised to help her career, and then the threats, warnings to stay silent, proof that he'd systematically destroyed every connection she had. She had the evidence. She'd always had it. But evidence meant nothing when no one would listen. Adrian called his attorney at 6 a.m. Edward Blake answered on the first ring. "Go on." "Dante Rosen. I need his complete history. Publications, patents, academic records. Anything that suggests his reputation is built on someone else's foundation. That's a serious accusation. I think I've been complicit in destroying an innocent woman's life." Adrian's voice was rough. "And I need to know if I'm right." The results came at 7 p.m. Adrian read through them twice, his stomach sinking. Dante's earliest patent, the quantum probability framework that launched his career, had been filed 6 weeks after Luna Villalba's expulsion. The mathematics matched her graduate thesis almost exactly. "There's more." Edward said. 3 other students filed complaints against Rosen for intellectual property theft. All dismissed. All 3 left the program within months. He has a pattern. Yes, and Luna was simply his most talented victim. Edward paused. We build an airtight case, we expose him completely, and we pray Luna is willing to fight back. She won't even talk to me. Then you'd better figure out how to earn her trust. Edward's voice was grim. Because if Dante realizes we're investigating, he'll burn everything to the ground. Adrian looked out at the city lights, thinking about a woman wiping down tables in a broken-down diner, carrying brilliance no one would acknowledge. He'd helped create those scars. Now he had to find a way to heal them. The invitation arrived at the diner 2 days later, delivered by courier. Hawthorne Quantum Systems Annual Gala. You are cordially invited. Dante's handwriting was scrawled across the bottom. Looking forward to seeing you there. A threat disguised as an invitation. Luna threw it in the trash. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and Manhattan's elite. Adrian stood near the bar when the presentation screen flickered to life. Dante appeared at the podium, microphone in hand. Before tonight's program, I'd like to address a security matter. Adrian's chest tightened. The screen changed. Doctored photographs showed Luna at a computer terminal, timestamps visible, file transfers highlighted. Everything manipulated to suggest theft. This woman, Dante continued, attempted to infiltrate our systems using false credentials. Luna Villalba, formerly expelled for academic fraud, was discovered attempting to steal proprietary algorithms. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Adrian pushed through the throng. This couldn't be happening. Then he saw her. Luna stood frozen in the doorway, wearing her server's uniform. She must have come from a catering shift. Her face was bone white, eyes locked on the screen displaying fraud in bold red letters. Someone laughed. A photographer rushed toward her, camera clicking. Dante! Adrian's voice cut across the room. Stop this immediately. Adrian, I know this is difficult, but the board agreed this warning was necessary. You manipulated those images. You forged every piece of evidence. The crowd went silent. Dante's smile never wavered. I understand you developed an inappropriate attachment to Ms. Villalba, but her history speaks for itself. She's a proven fraud and a threat to this company's integrity. Luna was moving toward the exit, photographers following. Tears streamed down her face as flashes exploded around her. Margaret appeared beside Adrian. Go after her, now. I'll handle Dante. He ran. He caught up to Luna on the street, rain pouring down. She was running blindly, uniform soaked through. Luna, wait, she whirled on him. Stay away from me. This is what you wanted, isn't it? Total humiliation. I didn't know he was going to do this. Your promises mean nothing. Her voice broke. You're all the same. You see someone you can use and destroy them. I have proof. Proof that Dante stole your work. Edward Blake has been investigating. I don't care about your proof. She was sobbing. Even if you expose Dante, everyone will always remember me as the fraud. The criminal who tried to steal from the great Adrian Hawthorne. She turned and ran into the darkness. Adrian stood in the rain, watching her disappear. Behind him, Margaret's voice was steel. If you don't fix this, you'll lose her forever. Back in his office, Edward spread documents across the table. Security footage, financial records, patent disputes. This is everything we need to destroy him legally, Edward said, but it won't repair what he did tonight. Adrian stared at the evidence. Proof of Dante's systematic destruction of Luna's life. Then we'll give her more than justice, he said quietly. We'll give her vindication. Complete and absolute. Margaret stood at the window. She won't forgive you easily. I know. Adrian's jaw tightened. But I'm going to spend every day trying anyway. He picked up his phone and began making calls. It was time to prepare for war. Edward Blake spread the documents across Adrian's conference table like a general planning a siege. Security footage, financial records, patent filings, university archives, 5 years of Dante Rosen's carefully constructed lies laid bare. We need more than this, Adrian said, studying the evidence. We need something irrefutable, something he can't twist or deny. We need her original work. Edward tapped the patent documents. If Luna still has the source files, time-stamped and unaltered, we can prove definitively that Dante stole everything. Adrian's jaw tightened. She won't talk to me. Then you'd better find a way to make her listen. Margaret appeared in the doorway, her expression implacable. Because without her cooperation, Dante walks free and destroys someone else. Luna was closing the diner when Adrian's car pulled into the parking lot. She didn't look up, just continued wiping down tables with deliberate focus. He walked in anyway. "I'm not interested in another apology," she said without turning around. "I'm not here to apologize." He set a folder on the counter. "I'm here to offer you a chance to destroy the man who ruined your life." That made her turn. Adrian opened the folder. "Dante Rosen has been stealing intellectual property for over a decade. You weren't his first victim, just his most brilliant. We have 3 other students who filed complaints. We have financial records showing patent filings that coincide suspiciously with student expulsions. We have metadata proving he fabricated the evidence against you." Luna's hands trembled as she looked through the documents. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because we need your original research. The source files, the time-stamped documents. Anything that proves the work was yours first." He met her eyes. "And because I need you to testify at a press conference, publicly, in front of cameras and journalists and everyone who watched Dante humiliate you." She stepped back. "No. Luna, you don't understand what you're asking." Her voice shook. "You want me to stand in front of the world and relive the worst moment of my life? To expose myself to more ridicule, more accusations, more... I want to give you justice." His voice was fierce. "I want to stand beside you and tell the world that you are brilliant, that you were wronged, that every word Dante spoke was a lie designed to cover his own theft." "Why?" The question came out as a whisper. "Why do you care?" "Because I was complicit in destroying you." The admission cost him. "Because I looked at you and saw a threat instead of a victim. Because I failed you when you needed someone to believe you." He paused. "And because you deserve better than hiding in a diner, pretending you're invisible." Luna closed her eyes. When she opened them, something had shifted. Not trust, not yet, but perhaps the first fragile beginning of it. "I have the files. Original research notes, voice recordings, everything." She pulled the USB drive from her pocket. "I've had them for 5 years. I didn't think anyone would care. I care." Adrian's voice was rough. "And I'm going to make damn sure everyone else does too." The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. Edward compiled forensic reports, matching Luna's original algorithms to Dante's published papers with side-by-side comparisons that made the theft undeniable. Margaret recorded a video testimony, her voice steady and certain. "I've watched Luna Villalba work. I've seen her brilliance firsthand. And I've watched my son's company benefit from innovations that should have borne her name. This young woman deserves recognition, respect, and restitution." Luna reviewed her own files with a mixture of pain and pride. The research that had once been her future, stolen and twisted into Dante's career. Tommy found her crying over her laptop one night. He climbed onto the couch beside her, small and warm. "Are you going to stop the bad man?" His voice was serious, older than 10. Luna pulled him close. "I'm going to try." "Good." He hugged her tighter. "Because he scared me. And you shouldn't be scared anymore." She kissed the top of his head. "I'm going to make sure we're both safe. I promise." Adrian presented the full plan in his office. Luna seated across from him with Edward and Margaret flanking her like guardians. "We hold the press conference in 3 days. Major outlets, live streaming, maximum visibility." Adrian pulled up the presentation layout. "I'll open with an announcement about internal investigation findings. Then Edward presents the forensic evidence. Then," he looked at Luna, "you tell your story, in your own words. What if they don't believe me?" Her voice was small. "They will." Margaret's hand covered hers. "Because the evidence is overwhelming. And because you'll speak with the authenticity that Dante has been faking for years." Luna nodded slowly. 2 days before the conference, the security team detected an intrusion attempt. "Someone's trying to access the evidence files," the head of IT reported, "using executive credentials." "Dante." Adrian's expression hardened. He knows something's coming. Edward had anticipated this. Every file was encrypted with military-grade security, backed up on multiple servers, with physical copies stored in 3 separate locations. "Let him try," Edward said grimly. "He can't erase what's already been distributed to a dozen journalists." The night before the press conference, Luna couldn't sleep. She reviewed her original algorithm one final time, her fingers tracing code she'd written when she still believed the world was fair. Her phone buzzed. Adrian's name appeared on the screen. "Are you ready?" She stared at the message for a long moment before typing back, "No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's what courage looks like." Luna set down her phone and looked out at the city lights. Tomorrow, everything would change. Either she would finally reclaim her name and her work, or Dante would destroy her completely. But for the first time in 5 years, she wasn't facing it alone. The morning of the press conference, the HQS lobby filled with journalists, cameras, and curious employees. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. Everyone knew something significant was about to happen. Luna stood in the green room, wearing a simple navy dress that Margaret had insisted on buying her. Her hands shook. Adrian appeared beside her. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." She met his eyes. "For Tommy, for every other student Dante might destroy, and for the person I used to be before he stole everything." He nodded. "Then let's go burn his empire to the ground." They walked toward the stage together, ready for war. The auditorium was packed. Cameras lined the back wall, red lights glowing. Journalists filled the front rows, phones and recorders ready. Employees crowded the sides, whispering speculation. Dante Rosen stood near the stage, his expression confident. He assumed this was about company restructuring, perhaps a new product launch. He'd spent the morning preparing remarks, ready to claim credit as always. Adrian stepped onto the stage. The room fell silent. "Thank you for coming." His voice was clear, controlled. "Today we're addressing a matter of internal sabotage that has plagued this company and the broader scientific community for over a decade." Dante's smile faltered. "What you're about to see is the result of a comprehensive investigation into intellectual property theft, fraud, and the systematic destruction of promising careers." Adrian nodded to the tech team. The screens blazed to life. Luna's original algorithm filled the display, elegant, innovative, revolutionary. The timestamp showed a date from 5 years ago, months before Dante's breakthrough publication. "This is the work of Luna Villalba, then a graduate student at Columbia University." Adrian's voice carried across the room. "The quantum probability framework that became the foundation of our encryption system. The work that launched this company's success." Side-by-side comparisons appeared. Luna's original code, Dante's published paper. The similarities were damning, not just similar, but identical in dozens of critical sections. Murmurs rippled through the audience. But that's not all. Edward Blake stepped forward, a folder in his hands. "We have documentation showing a pattern of theft spanning 11 years. 3 other students filed complaints against Dante Rosen for intellectual property violations. All complaints were dismissed following pressure from Dr. Rosen. All 3 students left academia within months." The screen changed again. Financial records showing patent filings dated suspiciously close to student expulsions. University investigation reports that had been buried. Email chains revealing Dante's manipulation of academic committees. Dante's face had gone white. Then the video started playing. Dante's voice filled the room, a recording from 5 years ago, captured on Luna's phone during one of their final meetings. "No one will believe you, Luna. You're a scholarship student with no connections. I'm a tenured professor with a decade of publications. If you try to fight this, I'll make sure you never work in this field again. I'll destroy your reputation so completely that you'll wish you'd never stepped foot in my lab." The room erupted. Journalists shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Employees stared at Dante with expressions of shock and disgust. Dante lunged for the control panel, trying to shut down the presentation. Security intercepted him immediately, restraining him as he struggled. "Let me go. This is fabricated. She's lying. She's always been a liar." "Stop!" Margaret Hawthorne's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. She stood, her expression cold fury. "You will stand there and face what you've done. You will acknowledge the lives you've destroyed, and you will apologize. I don't owe anyone. You owe everyone." Adrian's voice was steel. "Especially her." The cameras swung toward the side entrance. Luna stepped onto the stage. She looked small under the lights, fragile in her navy dress, but her voice when she spoke was steady. "My name is Luna Villalba. 5 years ago, Dante Rosen stole my research, forged evidence of academic misconduct, and had me expelled from Columbia University." She pulled out a folder, her own evidence, her own timeline. "I have the original files, the timestamps, the voice recordings, everything that proves the work was mine." Edward presented the forensic report to the cameras. Independent analysis confirms that Ms. Villalba's files predate Dr. Rosen's publications by a minimum of 4 months. The probability of coincidental similarity is statistically impossible. This is not inspiration. This is theft. Dante's composure shattered completely. You can't do this. I built this company. Everything here exists because of my work. Your stolen work. Adrian's voice was final. Security, please escort Dr. Rosen from the premises. Dante tried to run. He made it 3 steps before security blocked his path. Behind them, through the glass doors, police officers entered the auditorium. Dante Rosen, you're under arrest for intellectual property theft, fraud, and criminal conspiracy. The detective's voice was businesslike as handcuffs clicked into place. Cameras flashed like lightning. Journalists shouted questions. Employees watched in stunned silence as their executive director was led away in handcuffs. His face twisted with rage and disbelief. Luna stood frozen on the stage, watching her nightmare finally end. For the first time in 5 years, she took a breath that didn't hurt. Adrian moved to her side, not touching her, but present. It's over. It's over, she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. The cameras captured it all, the vindication, the justice, and the woman who'd survived 5 years of exile, finally reclaiming her name. The backstage area was chaos. Journalists demanding statements, employees processing shock, security managing the crowd. Luna slipped away from it all, finding refuge in an empty conference room. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She'd done it. She'd stood in front of cameras and the world and reclaimed her name. Dante was in handcuffs. The truth was exposed. So why did she feel like she was falling apart? The door opened. Adrian stepped inside, closing it behind him with careful quietness. Luna. She turned away, pressing her palms against the cool glass window. The city stretched below, 40 floors of distance between her and the ground. You were incredible out there. His voice was soft. You were brave and brilliant and... Don't. The word came out sharper than she intended. Don't tell me I was brave. Brave people aren't terrified. They don't spend 5 years hiding. Brave people are terrified, Adrian said quietly. They just do it anyway. She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No. He moved closer but didn't touch her. Nothing I say can make this better. I know that. Luna finally turned to face him. He looked exhausted, tie loosened, hair disheveled from running his hands through it, shadows under his eyes. Why are you here, Adrian? Because I need to apologize. Really apologize. Not just mouth the words. He took a breath. I doubted you. I looked at fabricated evidence and chose to believe it because it was easier than questioning someone I'd trusted for years. I humiliated you in that conference room. I let Dante manipulate me into becoming his accomplice. You didn't know. I should have known. His voice was fierce. I should have looked harder, questioned deeper, given you the benefit of doubt instead of assuming guilt. But I didn't, because I was arrogant and closed-minded and too damaged by my own past to see clearly. Luna's throat tightened. You're not the only one who lied. What? I lied too. The admission hurt. When you asked about my education, my background, I lied because I was terrified. Terrified that if anyone knew who I really was, Dante would find me and destroy me again. Tears spilled down her cheeks. So don't stand there and take all the blame. I could have trusted you. I could have shown you the evidence from the beginning, but I was too scared. Adrian stepped closer. You had every reason to be scared. That doesn't make it right. No. His hand reached toward her face, hovering inches away, waiting for permission. But it makes it human. She closed the distance. His palm cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away tears with heartbreaking gentleness. I'm so sorry, he whispered, for every moment you felt alone, for every time I failed to see you, for being too blind to recognize brilliance when it was standing right in front of me. Then he dropped to his knees. Luna's breath caught. Adrian, I was complicit in your destruction. His voice cracked. I wielded power without wisdom, judgment without mercy. I looked at you and saw a threat instead of a victim, and I will spend every day of my life trying to make that right. Stand up. Her hands found his shoulders. Please stand up. He rose slowly. They stood inches apart, both trembling. The door burst open. Tommy flew across the room, colliding with Luna in a fierce hug. You did it! His voice was muffled against her stomach. You stopped the bad man. Like a superhero. Luna laughed through tears, holding her brother tight. Not a superhero, just Me. That's even better. Tommy pulled back, looking up at her with eyes too wise for 10 years old. Can we trust him now? He jerked his chin toward Adrian. Or do I need to protect you? I think... Luna glanced at Adrian, seeing the vulnerability in his expression, the genuine remorse. I think we can trust him. Margaret appeared in the doorway, her expression soft. She crossed to Luna and took both her hands. You deserved better than what this world gave you, the older woman said quietly. You deserved support and recognition and kindness. Instead, you got betrayal and exile. She squeezed Luna's hands. But you survived. And now you're going to thrive. I don't know if You will. Margaret's voice was certain. Because you're stronger than anyone who tried to break you. And because you won't be alone anymore. Luna looked between them. Margaret's maternal warmth. Tommy's fierce loyalty. Adrian's desperate hope. I accept your apology, she said to Adrian. Not because I'm ready to forget, but because I'm tired of carrying this anger alone. Relief transformed his face. That's enough. That's more than I deserve. Probably. But she was smiling through tears. So don't waste it. He moved toward her slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. When he kissed her, it was gentle. A question, not a demand. Luna's hands found his collar, pulling him closer, answering yes. Somewhere in the hallway, cameras flashed. Journalists shouted. But in this moment, none of it mattered. Edward appeared in the doorway, tactfully clearing his throat. I hate to interrupt, but there are approximately 50 reporters demanding statements. Also, the district attorney wants to discuss additional charges against Dante. Apparently, once word got out, 2 more victims came forward. Good. Luna's voice was steady. Let them all come forward. Let everyone know what he did. Adrian's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. Together? She squeezed back. Together. They walked back toward the press conference together, not as CEO and consultant, not as billionaire and waitress, but as 2 people who'd survived their own destruction and chosen to rebuild. The cameras captured it all. The headlines would read, Vindicated. Genius engineer reclaims stolen legacy. Romance blooms from justice. But Luna wasn't thinking about headlines. She was thinking about Tommy's proud smile, Margaret's warm approval, Adrian's hand steady in hers. For the first time in 5 years, the future looked like something she could actually have. 3 weeks after the press conference, Luna walked into Hawthorne Quantum Systems wearing a tailored suit and an ID badge that read, Luna Villalba, Director of Innovation. Not consultant, not temporary employee, director. Her office was on the 40th floor, glass walls, city views, a workspace that would have been unimaginable 3 months ago. Her original algorithm was framed on the wall, time-stamped and authenticated, a reminder of everything she'd survived. Adrian appeared in her doorway. Ready for the board meeting? No. She straightened her jacket. But let's do it anyway. The quantum encryption project that Dante had sabotaged was in shambles. Luna spent 2 weeks rebuilding it from the ground up, incorporating her original vision with new innovations. The result was breathtaking, a system that reduced processing time by 40% while increasing security exponentially. This is remarkable, one of the board members said, reviewing her presentation. This could revolutionize the entire field. It would have 5 years ago, Luna replied calmly, if someone hadn't stolen it. The room fell silent. No one argued. Adrian was systematically restructuring the company leadership. 3 executives who'd enabled Dante's fraud were quietly dismissed. The culture of blind loyalty and unquestioned authority was being dismantled, replaced with transparency and accountability. It's going to take time, Edward warned during one strategy session. Changing company culture doesn't happen overnight. Then we take the time, Adrian said. We do this right. Edward finalized the patent registrations, ensuring Luna's name was on every relevant document. The legal battles would take years, but the foundation was solid. Dante's attorneys are trying to negotiate a plea deal, Edward reported. The district attorney isn't interested. Between the fraud charges, the intellectual property theft, and the new victims who've come forward, he's looking at significant prison time. Luna felt a grim satisfaction. Justice wasn't revenge, but it was something. Tommy visited the office on a Saturday, his eyes huge as he took in the glass towers and technology. This is where you work now? He spun in Luna's office chair. You look like a superhero, like a real one. I'm just an engineer, Tommy. That's what superheroes say. He grinned. Can I tell my class about you? Mrs. Peterson is doing a unit on scientists. Luna's throat tightened. Yeah, you can tell them. The media coverage was overwhelming. Headlines praised the wronged engineer who saved a company and brilliant mind emerging from exile. Luna gave exactly 3 interviews, then stopped. She had work to do. Margaret's health improved with the stress of the scandal lifting. Luna found herself visiting the older woman weekly, their conversations ranging from quantum mechanics to Tommy's homework struggles. "You've given my son something precious," Margaret said one afternoon over tea. "Hope. Purpose beyond profit. He's becoming the man his father wanted him to be. He's becoming who he was always meant to be." Luna corrected gently. "He just needed a reason to try." The company's reputation recovered faster than expected. The public loved a redemption story, especially one with clear villains and heroes. Stock prices stabilized, then climbed. New contracts poured in. 6 months after the press conference, Luna stood outside the conference room where Adrian had first confronted her with Dante's fabricated evidence. She'd avoided this room since returning, the memory still raw. But today she opened the door and walked inside. The space was empty, sterile, just another meeting room. She'd given it power by fearing it. Now she was taking that power back. She closed the door firmly behind her and walked away. Adrian announced the Villalba Innovation Fund at the next board meeting, a scholarship program for low-income students pursuing STEM fields. 20 full scholarships annually, he explained, plus mentorship, research opportunities, and legal support if anyone tries to steal their work. Luna's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed in front of the board. "Thank you. It's named after you," Adrian said simply. "It should have existed 5 years ago." The press release generated another wave of positive coverage. Applications flooded in. Luna personally reviewed each one, looking for the spark she recognized, brilliance hidden by circumstance, potential waiting for opportunity. 1 year after that night in the Redwood Diner, Luna stood at her office window, watching the sunset paint the city gold. Her algorithm was revolutionizing quantum encryption. Her name was on patents and papers. Tommy had a college fund that would ensure he never struggled the way she had. And Adrian was walking toward her with coffee and that small smile that made her heart skip. "You're thinking too hard," he said, handing her the cup. "I'm thinking about how impossible this seemed a year ago." She leaned against him. "How I thought I'd spend my life hiding. And now? Now I think the future might actually be mine." She turned to face him. "Ours." He kissed her forehead. I liked the sound of that. Below them, the city glittered with possibility. Somewhere out there were other Luna Villalbas, brilliant minds trapped by circumstance, waiting for someone to see them. She would find them. She would help them. She would make sure no one else spent 5 years in exile because someone decided their brilliance was easier to steal than acknowledge. Justice had been served. Dignity had been restored. Now came the best part, living the life she'd almost lost forever. The Redwood Diner looked different at twilight. The broken neon sign had been replaced, casting warm light across the parking lot. Luna stared at it from Adrian's car, confused. Why are we here? She hadn't been back since becoming director of innovation. The memories were too raw, too tangled with pain. Adrian turned off the engine. "Because this is where everything changed. Where you saved my company with brilliance I was too arrogant to recognize. Where you risked everything despite having every reason to stay invisible. Adrian, I bought it." The words came out in a rush. "The diner. Last month. I wanted you to have it, not as a business, but as a reminder. You survived here. You hid here. You gathered strength here when the world told you that you were nothing." Luna's throat tightened. "You bought an entire diner? I bought a symbol." He opened her door. "Come inside." The interior was transformed. White lights were strung across the ceiling in chaotic patterns, clearly Tommy's work. Candles flickered on the counter. And standing near the old booth where Adrian had mocked her 18 months ago were Margaret, Edward, and Tommy, all wearing expressions of poorly contained excitement. "What is this?" Luna whispered. Tommy bounced on his heels. "Just wait. You're gonna love it." Adrian took her hand, leading her to the center of the diner. His palm was sweating. She'd never felt him nervous before. "Luna Villalba." His voice carried across the small space. 18 months ago I walked into this diner furious and desperate. I treated you like you were invisible, like your existence was an inconvenience. You were having a bad day. I was being an ass." A small smile. "But you saw past my arrogance. You solved an impossible problem with grace and brilliance. And when I tried to destroy you for it, when I believed lies over truth, you survived." He dropped to one knee. Luna's breath caught. Her hands flew to her mouth. Margaret stepped forward, holding a small velvet box. The ring inside was simple, a single diamond on a platinum band, elegant without being ostentatious. "I don't deserve you," Adrian said quietly. "I probably never will, but I want to spend the rest of my life trying. I want to build something with you that's based on truth, not power, on partnership, not control, on love that's earned, not assumed." Tears spilled down Luna's cheeks. She was remembering everything, the humiliation, the fear, the nights she'd cried herself to sleep wondering if she'd ever matter again. And then the vindication, the justice, the slow rebuilding of a life she'd thought was destroyed forever. "I want to wake up every morning grateful that you gave me a second chance," Adrian continued. "I want to watch you change the world. I want to stand beside you and tell everyone who'll listen that you're the most brilliant person I've ever known." His voice broke slightly. "Luna, will you marry me?" She couldn't speak, could only nod through tears as she pulled him to his feet. "Yes." The word came out choked. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit. Then he kissed her, and she tasted salt from both their tears. Tommy whooped. Edward smiled, that rare, genuine smile. Margaret dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Luna pulled back to look at Adrian's face. This man who doubted her, hurt her, and then fought beside her to reclaim everything that had been stolen. "I love you," she whispered. "Even when I hated you, I think I loved you." "I love you too." His forehead pressed against hers. "I'll spend forever proving I'm worthy of that." Tommy crashed into them both, hugging them with fierce 10-year-old intensity. "Does this mean he's really my brother now? Like, officially?" "Officially," Adrian confirmed, one arm around Luna, the other around Tommy. Luna looked at her little brother, growing taller every month, losing the pinched look of constant worry he'd carried for years. "Tommy, you know this doesn't change anything between us, right? You're still my first priority. Always." "I know." He grinned. "But now we have more people. That's good, right?" "That's very good." Margaret joined them, her hand on Luna's shoulder. "Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you." Edward raised a glass of champagne from the counter. "To new beginnings, to justice served, and to two people stubborn enough to find love in the wreckage." They toasted with plastic cups because the diner didn't have proper champagne flutes, and ate takeout pizza because none of them had thought to arrange catering. It was perfect. Luna sat in the booth where she'd served Adrian coffee 18 months ago, her engagement ring catching the candlelight. Tommy was explaining quantum mechanics to Edward with hilarious inaccuracy. Margaret was telling Adrian stories about his childhood that made him groan with embarrassment. This was her family now. Chosen, earned, fought for. Adrian slid into the booth beside her. "What are you thinking?" "That chaos finally feels finished." She leaned against him. "Like I can breathe for the first time in 6 years." "Good." He kissed her temple. "Because we're just getting started." As night settled over the city, the Redwood Diner glowed with warmth and laughter, no longer a hiding place, but a monument to survival, to the woman who'd refused to disappear, to the love that grew from ruins. Luna looked at the ring on her finger and smiled. She'd won, not through revenge, but through resilience, not by becoming hard, but by staying brave. The chaos had passed, the future was waiting, and this time, it was really hers. The Villalba Research Institute opened on a rainy Tuesday morning, occupying 3 floors of Hawthorne Quantum Systems headquarters. Luna stood at the entrance, running her hand over the bronze plaque bearing her name. Not stolen, not erased. Hers. "It's beautiful," Tommy breathed beside her. At 12, he was all sharp angles and rapid growth spurts, already showing signs of the height he'd inherit from their father. "Can I intern here when I'm older?" "You can do more than intern." Luna ruffled his hair. "You can lead, if you want to." Adrian appeared with a folder of legal documents. The board approved the equity transfer. 20% of company shares now belong to the Institute, enough to ensure it remains independent and fully funded. "That's millions of dollars," Luna said quietly. "It's an investment in the future." He squeezed her shoulder. "In minds like yours that almost got lost because the system failed them." The Institute's first cohort included 15 students, brilliant kids from underfunded schools, first-generation scholars, children of immigrants who'd been told they didn't belong in science. Luna interviewed each one personally, seeing her younger self in their hungry eyes. "We'll give you everything you need," she told them on orientation day. "Resources, mentorship, legal protection if anyone tries to steal your work. But more importantly, we'll believe you. When you create something remarkable, we'll make sure your name is on it." One student, a 17-year-old from the Bronx, raised her hand tentatively. "What if we fail?" "Then you fail." Luna's voice was firm. "Failure is part of research. What's not acceptable is someone stealing your success and calling it theirs." Tommy excelled in school now, his grades climbing as anxiety lifted. He'd started telling teachers he wanted to study engineering. "Like my sister, the director of innovation." Luna attended his science fair, watching him explain his project on renewable energy with confidence she'd never seen before. "That's my sister," Tommy told anyone who'd listen, pointing at Luna. "She's changing the world." "You're embarrassing him," Adrian murmured in her ear. "He's embarrassing me." But Luna was grinning. "We're even." Margaret's health stabilized with proper treatment, and the stress of scandal finally lifted. She spent weekends with Luna and Tommy, teaching the boy chess and telling stories about Adrian's childhood mishaps. "He was impossibly stubborn even then," Margaret confided. "Thank goodness you're stubborn too." "He needs someone who won't let him get away with anything." "I learned from the best," Luna replied, squeezing the older woman's hand. Edward Blake formally joined the institute as chief legal counsel, his decades of experience ensuring that no student would ever face what Luna had endured without protection. "I've spent 30 years defending corporations," he told Luna during his acceptance speech. "It's time I defended the people who actually create the innovations." Dante Rosen's sentencing made headlines. 15 years for fraud, intellectual property theft, and conspiracy. 2 more victims testified during the trial, their stories heartbreakingly similar to Luna's. Luna attended the sentencing, watched Dante, diminished now, no longer the towering figure from her nightmares, led away in handcuffs. She felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just closure. "Is it wrong that I don't feel happy?" she asked Adrian afterward. "No." He took her hand. "Revenge doesn't heal. Justice just stops the bleeding. The healing comes after." They married 6 months later in a simple civil ceremony. No grand ballroom, no society photographers, just 20 people who mattered, gathered in Margaret's garden. Tommy was best man, taking his duties absurdly seriously. Margaret cried through the entire ceremony. Edward smiled his rare smile. Luna wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers. Adrian's vows made her cry, promises about truth, partnership, and building a future where brilliance was celebrated, not stolen. "I promise to never stop seeing you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "To never take your strength for granted. To stand beside you, not above you." "I promise to trust you," Luna replied. "Even when it's hard, even when old fears whisper that I should run. I promise to build this life with you, knowing that we both deserve it." The kiss was soft, sweet, filled with promise. That evening they sat on the balcony of their new apartment, not Adrian's bachelor penthouse, but a place they'd chosen together. Rain fell softly, washing the city clean. "The board wants to expand internationally," Adrian said, reviewing documents on his tablet. "Tokyo, London, Berlin. The quantum encryption system is revolutionizing security protocols worldwide." "Your quantum encryption system," Luna corrected. "You helped perfect it." "Our system," she smiled. "I like the sound of that." They discussed timelines, logistics, potential partnerships. Equal partners, building something that neither could have created alone. Luna watched the rain streak down the windows, feeling peace settle into her bones. Real peace, not just the absence of fear. She thought about the girl who'd fled her university in disgrace, who'd hidden in a diner for 5 years, who'd thought her life was over at 22. That girl would never believe this ending, would never imagine that justice was possible, that love could grow from ruins, that stolen dreams could be reclaimed. "What are you thinking?" Adrian asked softly. "That I won." Luna turned to face him. "Not because Dante went to prison, not even because my name is on patents and plaques. I won because I refused to disappear, because I stayed brave even when being brave hurt." She looked at her ring, simple, elegant, chosen. At the man who doubted her and then fought beside her. At the future spreading before them like an open road. "I won because I told the truth, because I had courage, and because I let myself love despite everything that tried to destroy me. Adrian pulled her close. We won. Yeah. Luna smiled against his shoulder. We did. Outside, the rain continued to fall. Inside, two people who'd survived their own destruction held each other and planned tomorrow. The chaos had ended. The healing had begun. And the future, brilliant, hard-won, theirs, was finally, truly starting. The end. If this story moved you, follow for more tales of justice, resilience, and love that conquers all. Share this with someone who needs to believe that the truth always wins. Comment below. What would you do if someone stole your dream?